I think I might have a small crush on Mark Zuckerberg. I lied. I'm in love. I have found a video with Mark Zuckerberg and Joe Rogan, and it's really hard to see him talk as a actual human being because I've seen him on like the Senate floor, seen him behind Congress, I've seen him everywhere. It's really hard to see him just like talk as a normal person because I always feel like he's so like robotic, if you will. But he has some very interesting things to say about jiu-jitsu. And I want to listen to him and I want to break some of these things down that he's saying and what it means to the community, to you, to me, to him. Because there are some important things in here that really can explain life. So let's dive into it. I got beat up the other day. You should see the other guy. All right, let's hop into it, guys. Let's listen to what he's got to say.
What's a thing that is both like just super engaging physically, but also intellectually, and where you can't afford to focus on something else? And I think to some degree, it's like MMA is like the perfect thing because it's like if you don't like you stop paying attention for 1 second, you're going to end up on the bottom.
Yeah.
Right. So I've just found that is just really important for me in terms of like what I do and being able to just kind of maintain my energy level, maintain my focus, because then like after, an hour or two of working out or, rolling or wrestling with friends or, training with different folks, it's like, now I'm ready to go solve whatever problem at work for the day. And like I've fully processed all the different news for the day that's come in, and we're just ready to go.
How did you get introduced to martial arts training? Like how long ago was this?
It was in the last 12 months, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because it was basically I run a lot and just do that. And then basically since COVID, it's like got super into surfing and foiling, then got really into MMA.
So how did you initially approach it? Like, how did you get a trainer? Like, what did you do?
I know a bunch of people who are into it. There's actually this really interesting connection between people who surf and do jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah,
so
a lot of similarities.
So a bunch of the guys who I do that with, they kind of have gyms in Kauai, and I basically collected a bunch of recommendations, ran them by a bunch of people who I know, and I ended up. I trained with this guy Dave Camarillo.
Oh, I know Dave.
Yeah, Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
And he's awesome.
He's great.
Yeah, super nice guy, and I feel like I'm learning a ton. And the crazy thing is, like, I don't know. I mean, it really is the best sport. I don't. The question isn't how did I get into it. It's how did I not know about it until just now. From the very first session that I did. Like 5 minutes in, I was like, where has this been my whole life?
Okay. First thing I want to show you guys, he said guerrilla jiu-jitsu. And I remember I told you guys about Dave Camarillo. Well, this is one of his black belts who was under Ted Stobie, Brian Gonzalez, and then that's me, Scott Barnes, black belt. I feel like a preschooler bringing home his sticker, from school to impress his mom. Let's break a few things down from what Mark just said, okay? Mark was here's what we'll do in the back end. 223, we'll do this, we'll play it. That way it's kind of like he's, playing some stuff in the background. So 223, that's how long I got. So the first thing he was talking about was solving his problems after doing a session. Yes, that's why working out is so important in between our work and our relationship lives that we have. It's really important. Get some stress out. We get to use our brain in a different way. And it really kind of desensitizes us, calms us down, gets the adrenaline out. And then that way we can really focus on what the true importances are, one's business, family, your partner, and then he goes into the surfing, the Dave Camarillo stuff, about how you get into it. And funny enough that he said COVID, right? COVID, we got into it. And when I got into jiu-jitsu, I was going through a transition in my life. And funny if not, we as humans forget to really look for the new things in life, because we're so rigid on the hours, minutes, seconds of when I have to go to work, when I got to come home, when I got to go to the gym, when I got to pick up the kids, when I got to go to the doctor. And before you know, we forget on when we should go and look out for new hobbies, right? And the last thing I really wanted to say, and this is going to be a great transition, is how did I not know about this? And that's something I want to double down on for you guys. You forget, you don't know what you don't know. And it's so important to find things that you don't know about, because again, this changed his life, because it's something that he can look forward to in this life. How is it that we don't,
sports? And like
how often is it like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to go do this one thing. Tell me that. Tell me one thing that you guys look forward to every day. That's something that's other than work, right? And I'm looking forward to Saturday. I got an hour. I'm working on my car. This is something where you got millions of people that want to train together.
Do 3 varsity sports. And like my life took a wrong turn when I chose to do fencing competitively instead of wrestling in high school or something, right? It's like there's something that's just
fencing, hoity-toity. It is. I disagree.
Primal about it. That's I don't know. It's and I've since then I've just introduced a bunch of my friends to it, and that's been really fun, because now it's like we train together and we just like wrestle together, and just I don't know. There's like a certain intensity to it that I like, and it's sort of, I don't know, maybe it's like there's this cultural thing where maybe a lot of people haven't considered it,
right?
But I've had 100% hit rate of introducing friends to it and converting them to people who now train. Every single person.
Dude, I gotta stop him right there. My inner YouTuber wants to come out, because I know that fool. Did you hear what he just said? He's like, my closing rate, or like he pretty much said my closing rate when I get my friends to do it. And there is a counterpart to it, but yes, it is nice to get your friends involved. That way you can train together and get involved. But he made a great point. There's something primal about it. There's something about being able to control somebody with your body, to control theirs. It's an amazing
kind of shown
feeling.
It to is like, this is amazing. This is like obviously how I should be training and working out.
Yeah, that's very impressive that it's 100%. You must have some solid friends, because a lot of people get turned off by the amount of effort that's involved, but they get excited by the problem solving, which is the more fascinating part, like learning the techniques and focusing on memorizing the techniques and developing the skills, and then drilling. Like that's probably one of the most important things about jiu-jitsu that people don't do enough of, is drilling. Like I made some of my biggest leaps in martial arts from like blue belt to purple belt just through constant drilling. I was drilling all the time with my friend Eddie Bravo, so we were always working on techniques, and so I was able to like progress much quicker. And then I noticed when I stopped doing that later, my progress kind of stagnated. It's like there's a real clear correlation between the amount of energy you put into drilling and observing the technique, and then just going through the motion with like someone offering like 20%, 30% resistance. Yeah. It's just not as fun. Like sparring is the most fun. Like you immediately want to just slap hands and start rolling. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really trust Dave, and so I think it's also.
Dave's great.
Yeah, and I'm also just depending on what's going on in my life and work that day. Like some days I like have the energy to go spar, and some days it's good to just go drill. And you know, it's like, all right, there's a lot going on. There's, it's better to just go do something like
Both
20
things
times
are
in a row.
important. Both things are important, but if you can force yourself to drill more than you spar, you'll get better.
Yeah.
It's really important. It's like the most important thing, and it's the thing that people do the least of. Because like to really like carve those pathways in your mind, like when someone is in this position, you do that, and then you immediately get your knee in position, you shift your hips. It's just, it gets driven into your programming, so that in the flow of an actual rolling session. It just happens.
Programming is probably the best word he could use right there. And why I think Mark loves it so much, as a computer whiz that he is, Joe makes a great point about drilling and why it is probably the most neglected thing when training jiu-jitsu. Why? Because it's boring. Nobody wants to just go in there and rep. But to his point, that's where I found my biggest leaps and bounds. And I really want to challenge you guys out there. If there's something that you're lacking on, put yourself in that position and work on that until you're getting better. Because you're good in every other place, but that's your Achilles heel. And that's why I am so proud of my jiu-jitsu and my game, is because I really believe I am, instead of like, let's say I'm 100% everywhere and only like 50% here, I'd rather be 90% everywhere and maybe have a little bit, 10% that, I could tighten up on. I'd rather be solid in every aspect. So, maybe 6 months, I'm just going to do takedowns. Maybe 3 months, I'm just going to do arm bars. Maybe 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, I'm going to do, omoplatas or, sweeps, flower sweeps. So many sweeps. But to Joe's point, it's the things that we hate the most. But to, what's his name? Goggins, right? Goggins always says, man, I run first because I hate it the most. I get it over with. And that's a great thing to do, you guys. Drill as much as you can. Time and a place, okay? There's always a time and a place to have open mat, okay? But we drill, so it drills into our head and it programs. So again, to Joe's point, as we're rolling, it's just an automatic muscle movement. It's a muscle memory. We just know it automatically.
You see, Tom Hardy just won a bunch of fucking
we
matches.
covered it.
Tom Hardy is like an ass kicker.
And check
Him and Mario Lopez
description.
are out there competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments. Like, this is wild. And they're both like beginners. They're both like blue belts. I'm like, that's incredible.
Well, maybe I'll get there for my 40th birthday in a
You
couple
should
years.
do it. Bourdain did it. He did it when he was like, I think he was like 60.
I just think I do a lot of stuff like this with friends, but I also just find like wrestling around with friends is
fun.
It's awesome.
Fun. Yeah, wrestling is fun. Jiu-jitsu is even more fun because it's like wrestling with like finishes. Yeah. I'm excited that you're into it. It's really cool. And I think, it really enhances your enjoyment of watching it on television because you know what's happening.
But there's also like a lot of good parallels, I think, in philosophy for life and work and all that. I mean, both surfing and foiling and jiu-jitsu, MMA, it's like, I think it sort of teaches you about like the flow and momentum of things. And I think business is like this in a similar way, where it's like the hardest thing is knowing when you're in a position where you need to push through versus sort of developing the intuition for when like, all right, when like the momentum is just going in the other direction. It's like, all right, you're not going to be able to pump over this swell. If you keep your weight in this direction, you're going to get swept, right? I do think, it's a super concrete thing. I think one of the things that's sort of frustrating running a company is like the feedback loops are so long, right? It's like, all right, so I showed you the pre-release version of the new VR headset that we're building. It's like, we've been working on that for years. And now it's like, so basically the ideas that went into that, and there's obviously a lot of problem solving even up until now to kind of get it to work well, but the basic principles of, okay, what like big features are we going to prioritize? Made those decisions years ago. And we're not going to know if that's right until maybe a year from now, until we see how that goes. So there's something that I think is sort of, it's difficult in running an enterprise of that scale to like try to learn from things at such a long, such a kind of a long interval. And it's something that I just find super rewarding, is having these parts of what I get to do on a day-to-day basis where you're learning about, like, you get to push on the world or push on other people and get to kind of see how that goes like a second later instead of 4 years later.
Right.
It's like, all right, am I going to be able to like go turn that direction on that wave, or am I just going to get swallowed? Right. So it's, I don't know. I think that having that mix in your life is, it feels really important and healthy to me. And I mean, I try to get my friends into it. I mean, my kids do jujitsu too. I just think it's like really important that they kind of develop all these skills and appreciation for doing physical things, just like my parents taught me. But I don't know. It's I guess overall, it's like a big part of I don't know. It's a big part of of who I am. I think. I mean, going back.
And I want to stop it right there because that's how I feel. It's a big part of who I am. And that's where I want to finish off on. You know, he's talking about philosophy and work and life. And that's why we go and train. You know, you have your average gym rat going lifting weights, which I do and a lot of other people do. You know, there's various forms, just like he's saying too, where, you know, he's going surfing, we can go whitewater rafting, we can go parasailing, paramotoring, skydiving. But to his point, and Joe's point, you know, wrestling is the most primitive form of hand-to-hand combat. Who can pin? I mean, look at grizzly bears. You know, these huge behemoth of animals will wrestle each other to the ground, and there's something, you know, patriot. I don't know if that's the right word. There's just something chaotic about it, and also. Maybe that day you're not the best. Maybe that day you are the best. Again, there's something unknown about it, and again, there's something I think out of your control, and I think that's where Mark is kind of getting at, where he's coming in with these, you know, feedback sheets, working on different projects, going up with these ebb and flows. And to his point, is this the time that I need to put a lot of pressure here? Should I conserve my energy and let this guy try to pass and, you know, catch him at that time? Maybe. And again, I think that can correlate well into the real world. So there are a lot of sports out there, and there's just something special about jiu-jitsu. There's just something special about it. And yes, it is wrestling, but with submissions. There's a little treat at the end, right? You know, you've got vanilla, then you got a milkshake, you know, then you got the sundae. But again, to Mark's point, you know, this is something great where an average person of even high intelligence, low intelligence, anybody in between, man, it's a great sport, and it humbles you. It humbles you, and I think everybody out there in the world would be that much better in life. Just being able to be humble, put the ego aside, and chill out. Thanks, guys, for the rant. Love ya. All right, we're done with Mark Zuckerberg. We're moving on. We're moving on. Thanks again, you guys. Like, subscribe. Let me hear you guys down in the comment section. I want to hear everything about it. See ya.